John, thanks so much for joining us today.
It's great to be with you guys.
Yes, and we're here at GrantSummit, and you might hear some chatter in the background because we just wrapped our first opening session, and folks are still riding
Where
high.
Amanda was awarded
Yes.
Presidential Fellow.
I think we need
Yes.
to cover that.
Yeah, that's a separate episode later.
I have a
think.
separate interview
Yes.
coming up, but thank you.
Yes.
But yes.
So John,
Big stuff.
We've interviewed a ton of people in the grant profession, and
True
I think
that.
you're probably the first we know that's a former executive with the NFL and the NHL and the NBA. How on earth did you go from that to grants? Because we love everybody's grants origin story.
That's quite an origin story,
Yes.
I think.
Well, when I left the sports business,
Yeah.
I started a marketing consultancy,
Okay.
and I took on Zoom Grants as a client,
Okay.
and it developed into more than just a client. It became a company I really enjoy working with. I enjoy the people. I enjoy the people that I get to work with in the grant industry.
Yay.
And it's become part of my life.
Yeah.
So I know it's a unique transition to go from the sports and entertainment industry into the grant industry.
Mm-hmm.
But here's the cool thing, and you guys know this. Every day we get to make a difference.
Yeah,
Right?
it's true.
Every single day. And I know with our platform, with Zoom Grants, we're impacting literally 1 million people a year are benefiting from what we do. So it feels really good.
Yeah.
It feels incredible.
Yeah. Very cool.
Also, we do say that grant writing is not a solo sport, which is probably the only sports analogy you're going to hear from me. I'm sorry, it's not my area of expertise. But, I mean, it's
it's
true.
true.
It's
Yeah.
true. The more successful agencies are the ones that have not just one person sitting in a corner writing grants, but getting everyone involved, including the people they serve. So, yeah.
Yep.
That's about it for sports metaphors for me. Amanda could.
If it's football, I can talk football.
I
with
got
you.
a feeling
Yes.
it might pop up during
Yeah.
this conversation.
So, based on what you've just shared, it is no big surprise that you are leading a workshop here. So, we're recording this during the Grant Summit in 2024. Y'all will be hearing it in 2025. But your topic is, and I want to make sure I get this right, coaching up, passionately sharing winning strategies. So why is it that professional coaching has been highlighted as a kind of strategy for grant success?
Well, if you take football analogy,
Okay.
you take the very best football teams, they still go over the fundamentals every day. We can't be encouraged enough on a daily basis to be the very best version of ourselves.
I do like gold stars, so I feel ya.
There you go. See? So in coaching up, and I do this at conferences all across the country for executive retreats, for Chamber of Commerce. It's all about personal and professional enrichment. When you have the opportunity to impact somebody on a personal level, take it.
Yeah.
Because we have the ability to do anything and everything.
Yeah.
There's so much potential in everyone. In that presentation, I go over things like collaborative communication, how important it is to be able to communicate, which you guys can relate to since this is what you do.
Yep, we do.
Connecting with people, which is probably the biggest function, is being able to interact with people. And I think we're going to cover that too.
Yep.
Teamwork, which is very sports oriented. I have a session on gifts and doubt, imposter syndrome, talking about how each and every one of us are gifted, but we all deal with doubt. I'm one of the most confident men you'll ever meet in your life, and doubt still creeps into my head and to my heart all the time. There's a session on taking inventory, where we take personal inventory and professional inventory on what we're doing in our lives. There's a session on admiration and your brand, which is what I close with. It's how important. How do we conduct ourselves? For me, it's really important, and we've known each other a while, all of us. We've seen each other all these years. I always want to make sure my brand is perceived in a very positive manner, whether it's the Zoom Grants brand or it's the John Hall brand.
Yeah.
I talk a lot about gratitude.
Right.
How gratitude literally rewires the brain to be happier and executing gratitude. And a lot of that has to do with who I am as a man, who I am as a man of faith, being able to exercise those things that just make the people around me feel a little bit better. A new topic that I've started to come up with now, I saw recently, it was an interview on being authentic. The more authentic we are in life, people are more attracted to you. They want to be around you. So those are the things that I discuss in coaching up, and I love it. I love it.
Well, you can tell that you love it
Yeah.
based on that.
Nice.
Well, and I think imposter syndrome is something we have talked about excessively with. There's so many female-owned companies that are amazing, that are dominating this field. You've got Kim Joyce and Associates, you've got Boyd Grants, you've got Diane Leonard, Grant Writing and Associates, that we, from the outside, we're looking at them going, they are killing it.
Yeah.
And then you talk to them, they're like, I feel like I don't just, they'll tell you, like, sometimes I wonder if I know what I'm doing. And I'm like, you're doing amazing.
Yeah, it's
But,
not
I mean,
it's not a humbleness. It's more
No.
like I'm not doing it right. And I'm like, it looks like you are.
You're doing it really right.
It's like the duck in the water, right?
Yeah.
Right.
It's all calm on
Yeah,
top,
and
and
underneath
down
it's like,
below.
Yeah. So that's something I think most people in this profession struggle with.
Yeah, doubt will it will kill more dreams than failure ever will.
Yeah.
And there's such a big difference between doubting yourself but being open. Like, you know what I mean? You can be so overconfident that you're closed off to any learn and change, any sort of learning and change. But that's not what we're talking about here.
Yeah.
We're talking about people
No.
who are just like, what? I'm just not doing this. And it's like, but you are.
Yeah, you really are. So, well, one of the things you mentioned was connecting with people,
Yep.
and that really resonates with me because that's I love people. I love connecting with people, finding those connections. So, how does relationship building and emotional intelligence play into everyone's personal and professional journey?
Well, there's IQ, which we all know what that is. There's AQ, that's acquired intelligence, the things we learn.
Okay.
There's TQ, which is technology now. This becomes a part of it. How well do we acclimate
fair.
to technology? It's important in our daily life.
fair.
But the real superpower is EQ, emotional intelligence. If we can read a room, be able to develop a relationship with someone, allow them to don't answer a question waiting for you to answer the next question. Listen to what they have
Yeah,
to say and
yeah.
try to understand instead of reply.
Yeah.
When you do those little things, all of a sudden you start connecting with people. You start developing a relationship. Business, and I do talk about business. It's not just all about personal enrichment. The number one reason a person buys a product or service is price, cost. Number two, relationships. If we develop relationships with people, it enhances our business, it enhances our personal life, it enhances our family life. The greater we can connect with people, the so much richer we're going to be in so many different ways. And so when I do coaching up and I talk about these things, I actually have a whole segment through each segment where I get everybody to say, heck yeah. And I ask everyone, I said, when it comes to collaborative communication, how about a heck yeah? And the whole crowd goes, heck yeah. And I also ask in the very beginning, I want you to pull one nugget out of what we're going to talk about today. And by the way, I don't talk to you, I talk with you.
Yeah.
That's part of collaborative communication.
Sure.
And I'm not going to tell you something, I want to share something with you.
Yeah.
Little subtle things that allows us to connect with people, to collaborate in communication. So, yeah, I love connecting with people. And it really is my mission statement for me, my sustainable mission, is to leave the room a better place.
Yeah.
Even matter of fact, on my LinkedIn profile, the last thing it says, always seeking a sustainable mission. If I can leave the room a better place, then I've achieved something that is worthwhile.
Yeah.
Yeah, very
That's true.
Yep. Fun fact, I don't know if I've told you this story. John and I have a connection. My sixth grade, back then elementary school was still sixth
Do we need
grade.
to do the
my-
back in time
Back in
thing?
time. Yep, little Amanda, living in Germany. My sixth grade teacher at the on the Army base, Diane Tinkham at the time. When we became Facebook friends, we had one friend in common, and it's Mrs. Tinkham. And I'm like,
What?
John, how do you know her? Y'all lived near each other in Colorado
we
for a
lived
while,
in
right?
the same community. She was very involved in the school, and I was very involved in the school.
Is that not wild?
She was involved in a lot of the philanthropic things in town, and so was I.
Yeah.
So we got to know each other very well.
Yeah, it's a small
I mean,
world.
it is, but it isn't when it comes to you because you've lived in so many places and your passion is for connecting people. And I'm just like, she's gonna know. In any given room, or any store, any restaurant, I'm like, yeah. There's gonna be somebody's aunts, cousins, dog walkers.
Way less than 7 degrees.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
It's sixth grade teacher.
It's the 2
something
degrees of Amanda,
of Amanda
Day.
Day. I like it.
I would love to circle back for a second to talking about gifts and doubt, and because we had, we were talking about how a lot of female business owners in particular, I'm sure men too.
Yeah.
It's just our direct experience with some of our colleagues. They experience this, they're gifted, but they experience all this doubt. Can you sort of help our listeners understand how those are connected and how to break out of that cycle of doubting your gifts?
Sure. First of all, let me take a step back and share why I started doing that. I do a lot of emceeing events.
Yeah.
And I was doing an event for many, many years where I was the MC for the Day of Kindness. And I would
Nice.
speak at the high school. And my goal was always to reach out to the kids. Because when you're an older guy like me with silver hair and silver beard,
Nothing wrong with
and you've got a whole bunch, love it. You've got a whole bunch of teenagers in an audience, about 600 of them. How do you get their attention?
Yeah.
So I started talking about gifts because I was really trying to connect with those kids that felt disengaged.
Right.
Because unfortunately we had we had an issue with young people taking their lives.
Yeah.
So I was really trying to connect with those young people in the audience that maybe felt a little disconnected. And I would use all these different ways they could be gifted, like off the wall stuff on how they could be gifted. That made me really think about just everyone,
Right,
adults.
right.
And we're all gifted in different ways, but we're all dealing with doubt. I mean, there's so many ways that doubt can mess with your head and your heart. And so I would talk to these audiences, and I would talk about their gifts, but then I'd say, I also know you're dealing with doubt. And you know how I know you're dealing with doubt? Because I deal with doubt. I deal with it all the time. So they're looking at me as this former executive with the NFL and all this stuff. How could he deal with doubt? If he can deal with doubt, maybe it's okay for me to deal with doubt. So when I deal with an audience, we dive into doubt. We dive into imposter syndrome. I know the day that I walked up to Madison Square Garden when I first started working with them, I looked up and went, what am I doing here?
I can imagine.
I'm
This is where you
this-
go for concerts, not work.
Right. I'm this kid from West Texas that, grew up in the oil fields. What am I doing at Madison Square Garden? It's just a great illustration that no matter what doubt you're dealing with or imposter syndrome you may be dealing with, focus on your gifts and then utilize those gifts to the benefit really of others. Because if you do that, then you're going to end up, what is the gift? The gift isn't giving.
Yeah.
So if you can do that, then you're going to end up benefiting from
Right.
Everybody else. Yeah.
I think it's so important to help kids and adults even identify their gifts because sometimes they're just not even at that level yet. Yeah.
We had dinner last night with one of the exhibitors, somebody you actually mentioned a little while ago, with their staff, their team.
Yeah.
And I asked everybody on the table. I said, "Okay, because she had some new people join them. And I said, tell us about you, because we would have gotten our little segments on the table. We had a big table, so each person was able to offer a little bit about themselves, so we all got to know them a little bit better. And you can see that as they start to talk, kind of what their gifts are, and then it allows me to exercise my EQ and be able to listen to what they're saying, and then make a comment. So when we finished that evening, when we
Right.
left, they felt a little bit better
Yeah.
about who they were, what they're doing, and doubt's a crusher.
Yeah. It's true.
Yeah.
It's true.
Very true. Is it my turn for a question?
It's your turn for a question. Get in
My turn
there.
for a question. So I love that you have the value of taking inventory as part of your process, and so both to see the roadmap of where you've been and where you're going. What does that look like when you put it into action in life? Like, it's one thing to say, yeah, I take value in stock of what I've done, but how do you do that?
I worked with two different companies, guys, where I was asked to come in and do two different things. One wanted a sustainability platform for them for their company, and they were a great company, best
Yeah.
to work with. The other was a company that dealt with the travel industry, and they had a safety product. And so I went in before I started to do the presentations with them and to put a strategy together. I had to do inventory,
Yeah.
find out about who they were and what they did. The first company, they were rock stars. I mean, and as I shared with them everything they did, this was a really confident room of people. Their heads were going back and their chest was going out. And even the most confident person, when you show them the good work they're doing, they feel so much better about themselves. Now, on the other company, they were like this. They wanted me to take them from good to great, the CEO did, and they didn't think they were a good company, let alone thinking they could be a great company.
Yeah.
And so what I did is I took inventory on the people. And then I shared with them. I said, okay, well, one thing I've noticed about your company, Mary over here, she donates her time for Meals on Wheels. And Jim over here, he's part of the bookmobile.
Right.
And I did that back and forth, and all of a sudden they started seeing each other as human beings. And they started feeling better about themselves, which in turn made them feel better about the company. Now, I wasn't able to take them to be a great company, just based on where they were, but at least we got them to a place where they were good through taking inventory and sharing with them the good things that they're doing. Now, you can do that with our own personal lives. We could sit down right now and take inventory, just like you get an award today. You can take that inventory and go feel good about it.
Right.
And it's a nice way to be able to look at kind of where we're headed. If we're doing these positive things, then let's replicate that, because it's good work there. So the taking inventory thing I do with a lot of different companies and organizations, because it's a really good way to have a roadmap of where we need to go, and it also makes them feel a little bit better about the things they're doing now.
Yeah. Well, and I love making the connections with like the great people that are working at your company, because I've been places where I've really loved my coworkers, and it's an amazing place to work, even if maybe it really isn't. But it's an amazing place because you all are excited to be there and want to move
There's
forward.
a connection.
Right? There is. I've also worked some places where it's like, these are not my people. Okay, this is not going to work for me.
That's true.
So.
I'm thinking about success stories because we heard all the laundry list of all the wonderful things that you've done.
Yep.
And, but I was wondering if you could share maybe some. It's also making me think about grant reporting, near and dear to folks who are using Zoom grants because they always want to know outcomes. Are there some outcomes or success stories in different ways other than taking inventory that you could share with us about coaching up with other organizations to help people understand, more about how it could work?
Sure. Because Coaching Up has so many variables in it. I mean, all those different topics.
Yeah.
And then we dig a little deeper into those topics during the presentation. And then for some of these companies, I will take Coaching Up and not just the hour presentation, which I'll do tomorrow.
Sure.
I will break each one of those segments into a breakout session. So we would literally sit down with people and explore how we can collaborate in communication, how we can genuinely connect with people, how we can exercise greater teamwork, and all those things. Success stories, wow.
Or maybe just a segment of Coaching Up, right? Where it's been like, oh, we went with this company and we did segment X and this thing happened.
Wow.
Put you on the spot.
That's a great question, because I'm going to go back to the gratitude.
Go back to the
What I do is I talk about purpose and gratitude is a segment in it. And I talk about how gratitude will literally rewire our brains.
That is true.
And I ask people to start exercising gratitude. So now, remember in the beginning, I asked somebody to pull one nugget out.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so then later, I will get back with them and I'll ask them, okay, what was the nugget that you pulled out of that? It's amazing how many of them
people
say
say
gratitude.
Yeah.
They go, I forget that I have so much to be grateful for. Now, how does that spin off into what we do in the grant industry? We do so many amazing things in this industry. We should be grateful every day.
Yeah.
I mean, bountifully grateful. But sometimes we forget.
Yeah.
So it's good to be able to exercise that reminder of just be grateful for what you have. So that's where I think from a success standpoint, each and every one of those segments, Kimberly, there's been successes.
Yeah.
It would be hard for me to see. For me, it's always connecting with people.
Sure.
For me, that's my favorite out of the group. But I did a presentation with a company, and the CEO asked each one of their people to give me feedback. Now, I thought which segment they liked the best. I thought for sure they were all going to say connecting with people.
Yeah.
They didn't.
Yeah.
They literally, every one of them had something different they pulled out of it. One of the things that was interesting is with the connecting with people piece, I talk about how everyone has stuff. Everyone's dealing with things. And the sooner
He's using the polite version of what I usually say. Thank you,
Yes.
Sean. Thanks for keeping it PG and real.
Podcast.
I will generally do that.
That's perfect. That is
yeah.
perfect.
Then I talk about how everyone has stuff. And as I scanned the room, there was a guy to the left of me that was part of their team. I could see his eyes watering. And when we finished, they were talking to each one of them, said what moved them. And he goes, you have no idea, when it got to him, what the stuff I'm dealing with right now. So you being able to say that just helped me open up. I said, come here, brother. I gave him this big hug, and I'm a hugger. I gave him this big hug, and I said, man, you got this. And then the CEO pulled me aside and said, he is really dealing with some really serious stuff. So the sooner we can identify that people are dealing with stuff, here's the deal. Everyone is.
Yeah. I think maybe it's especially hard for men to be that vulnerable because you're probably raised to be like, you got this. I'm thinking the NFL, not noted for its sharing, caring vulnerability. Am I wrong? Am I right?
There's a little bit of testosterone
I'm
flowing.
just thinking that's really not what's pushed on the field. So I think that's really important. It's always an important lesson to remember for me too, that can be the sort of the key that unlocks everything. If people could just get a little more in touch with that.
I used to be kind of a hard guy.
No.
And then as I got older and I started to realize that there was so many blessings in our life
Yeah.
that I started to soften up.
Yeah.
And it's amazing when you, as a man, when you start to soften up, how people are even more drawn to you.
Yeah.
They don't want a hard-edged guy. I mean, there's a time and place for it. And, if there's discipline, if there's something goes sideways, you got to take care of something.
Okay.
But
That's usually
That's
not
not
every
the
day.
day-to-day.
Thank
No,
goodness, it's usually
no,
not every
no,
day. So it's
exactly.
like
No.
exactly.
being able to access that. Yeah, that's amazing. I think that's hard work for a lot of men.
A lot of men have difficulty with empathy and compassion.
They're not raised to. They're not raised to.
And that's where the EQ comes into play.
Yeah.
People with a high EQ have a tendency to have greater empathy and greater compassion. That doesn't mean you're a softie. I mean, you talk to my kids. They know Dad.
Yeah.
I mean, there's certain things you do and you don't do. But if I can show a little bit more empathy to people, a little more compassion to people, then what happens is start connecting with them.
Yeah.
And then you start developing relationships. We've developed a relationship over the years.
Yeah.
And it's fun. Every time I see you guys, it's
Oh,
like,
yeah.
hey, so good to see you.
I swear this is more like a family reunion you want to go to
Yes.
than some family reunions can be some places, right?
I was going to say,
Yes.
family. Adams
Well-
family, Manson family, GPA family. Very different. All very different.
Well, and all this kind of reminds me, so I mentioned living in Germany. So my family moved every 3 to 4 years of my life because my dad was in the Army.
And by the way, thank you for your service.
Oh, well, Army brat is a tough job, right? But my dad also, I mean, he was
Yeah, of
a
course.
colonel in the military. Like, he was some like, my sister and I knew, like, all he had to do was look at us, and we were
Right,
like,
right. Yep,
okay,
the
hey.
look.
But at the same time, also such a compassionate person. I remember every time we'd move, especially the older we would get, it just got harder and harder to leave friends and boyfriends, and, you get involved in dance team and cheerleading and all these things, and every time we'd move, my sister and I would be moping around, until, because it always takes you a while to find your
Sure.
people again.
Right.
And my parents are like, look, this is the life we have.
Yeah.
There's no changing it, because the four of us are staying together. Your dad is always going to move. Yes, be sad, but also be grateful for what we had. And you can choose to either stay here and be miserable, or you can look at, hey, we've moved someplace new. Now we can meet new friends. We
Yep.
can try new things. We can learn new things. And that kind of taught me, like, sometimes you have a choice. And I'm not saying, your spouse gets cancer, your kid died. There are some horrible things that happen. I'm not saying put on a brave face and it doesn't
And be
matter.
all like
Right.
fake positive.
Yes,
That's
fake
not
positive.
it.
That's not what I'm talking about. But there are times when you just like, okay, this is the hand that I'm dealt. Excuse me. You can either wallow in it or, okay, this is what I got, so let's move forward. And so that was kind of how I was raised to do that. And so I really appreciate my dad and my mom
for
imparting
instilling
those
that.
lessons. So
Well, that when you walked up earlier and we talked, and I said, if this is the worst thing that happens to me.
Oh, I know. I was like,
Oh my
hey, there's this
gosh.
thing. Let's check it out. Let's see what's happening.
yeah,
Dun, 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 tap dancing. But
Yeah,
yeah.
we're gonna-
Yeah.
One
figured
quick
out.
note on what you were talking about,
Yeah.
all the moving, is I've got to think that prepared you so many different ways in life.
oh,
Yep.
it really did.
Yeah.
It really,
100%.
really did. Because I mean, change. I'm not afraid of change. I don't always look forward to it per se, but I'm not. I see some people like now, like the school gets redistricted and their kid in second grade has to switch to another elementary school, and I'm
Crisis.
like, dude, I moved,
Right,
I moved to another country when I was that age. Like, they're gonna be okay, and it's
gonna be
They're
okay.
gonna have change as an adult. Like, you can't
Yes.
control that, and so experiencing it as a child
Right.
really made me realize, okay, we're just gonna go with the flow here.
Right,
So I
right.
think I would have been a much shyer, a much risk-averse person if I had lived in the same place my entire life. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. My kids have lived in the same place
That's
their entire
true.
life, and they've turned out okay.
Well, we know you're not
So,
shy.
no,
No.
no, got over that real quick. So,
So this is just, I've just learned so much. Thank
know.
you. I mean,
Yes.
it didn't even, it's not even, it's like a conversation. Those are the best kinds of podcast episodes where it's just, we're talking.
Yes.
You were sharing. It's not,
yeah.
and on to the next question, and what do you think, and what are
NPR,
the five?
yes.
But I know we're nearing our time here. What if people are like, I've got to find out more about coaching up. I'm not coming to the GrantSummit. I can't, whatever. What's the best place for people to find you and find out more about what you're doing?
LinkedIn.
Okay.
LinkedIn is really the best mechanism because every event that I'm doing an opening keynote next month because today's 31st in Kansas City for a conference. Doing coaching up for a bank on all their employees. I post everything where I'm doing it. Best way is to get me on LinkedIn.
Yeah,
If you go John Hall Zoom Grants, because that's where I show. By the
Right.
way, one quick note:
Yes.
when everyone have retired from Zoom Grants.
Really? Well,
The
congratulations.
Wow.
At the end of the year, I'm retiring from full time. I'm still going
Sure.
to be doing some part time stuff.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to be doing a lot more speaking.
Uh-huh.
And
Nice.
very cool.
really focusing on that and coaching up people.
Yeah.
Because that is my passion.
Well, obviously. So,
That's so
yeah.
cool.
Congratulations. That's exciting.
Thank you. Yeah, it's going to be fun.
So just find you on LinkedIn.
Find me on LinkedIn.
Yeah, we'll link it in our show
Yep.
notes too to make it
that'd be
easy
great.
for people.
That'd be great. That'd be awesome. And
Yeah.
anybody can reach out to me. I
Yeah.
mean,
He's not
You're an
kidding.
approachable guy.
Yes.
I try to be.
He really
I
is.
try to be. Hey guys, thanks.
Well, thank
Thank
you.
you.
I
It's
love
great.
being on the podcast.
Yay.